he bought one of the tables, a smaller table, but this 10-foot table down here is beautiful. I'd love to see somebody that has a business use the thing, or somebody that has a place to put a 10-foot table. The chairs are beautiful. There's not a flaw on them.
Just from you describing it, I'll take a picture of it before I get out of here.
$400 each. There's 8 of them, and that conference table was $4,800 and $3,200 on the chairs. That's $8,000, and Bunny wants $1,100 for it.
Woo!
He's gonna give me $100 of it just for I helped him move it from that building over here to my building here, and I'm sitting there with a lot of space, 10 foot long table, taking up a lot of space. So I'm doing him a favor. I'm not worried about the $100. I just want to get it out of here because it's space I need, big time.
Well, your honesty in all of that, as far as the transaction and just being exactly about what it is you do and say, is why I wanted to come back and talk to you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chuck Connor. This is Social Therapy. I'm Chaz Bray. I've been looking
live now.
I just went live,
okay,
and the only reason I'm doing that is I wanted you to stay comfortable.
Okay.
Because
okay.
I just sat down with my coffee.
Okay.
You provided me.
Good deal.
And I wanted to thank you. We're on the corner of 77 North, where it splits and goes.
Cokesbury Highway.
Cokesbury Highway. Thank you very much. Chuck's Garage, ladies and gentlemen. Chuck and I met through me actually getting started with this podcast, where I came by and said, hey man, I got a tiny shop I'm about to set a bunch of people inside of, and I need some chairs. And he said, I got the thing you need. So from that point forward, we've kind of just stayed in contact, and I told you eventually I was going to come in here and do you a service and have a conversation, because you have a very interesting story.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming back.
What you been up to? Let's start there. How's life been treating you?
Just running this big garage sale out here and taking care of a lot of grass cutting. My wife keeps me going. She has a beautiful yard. We got a house in Hartwell. Her parents both are deceased. We got their house after she had stayed with her mother 7 years, she was a caretaker. They left the house to my wife, and we are comfortably living on Lake Hartwell and physically on the lake. And I've got a lot of grass to cut over there, and I've got 2 yards over here to cut. So that
keeps you young.
Keeps me young, and that's the way I like it.
That's awesome, man.
I don't feel 76, but I probably look it, but I
not at all, sir.
I try not to act it.
Look, if I can make it 76 and keep moving the way you are, I'll be doing good.
I hope you can.
I hope I can too, man.
I hope you can.
Are you from here originally?
I'm actually from a little town called Unadilla, Georgia. It's in middle Georgia. It's 40 miles south of Macon. I grew up in the Chevrolet business in a little town called Vienna. At 10, we moved to another town, and that's the town. Unadilla is a town I finished high school in, and just a little country town, but something very comfortable, good place to raise a family as far as I'm concerned. I still have a lot of family there, and I go back as often as I can. With this building now, I'm open weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 8 to 5 these 3 days. It's hard for me to get down there, but I enjoy them coming up here to see us when they can. They enjoy the lake, and that's good. But I do have a brother, a living brother. He's 4 years older than me. He's 80. He has an antique store like this, very much like this down there, and he's a used car dealer as well. But he enjoys life. He's had some health problems with in the last 4 or 5 years, but he's still active and gets up every day and goes to work.
That's awesome.
And that's the way my daddy taught us: get up and go to work every day and make money and raise your family.
Do what you need to do.
Provide for your family. So that's what I do every day, and that's what he does, and that's the way I like it.
I appreciate you for being that way, man. Because there's too few people nowadays have a solid work ethic, I believe. But I'm hoping that there's a younger generation, because I have hope. I've talked to a lot of younger ones that see it, that see the issue with, I don't know if entitlement is the exact right word, but it's definitely something that need to be addressed, as far as almost the old Kennedy, I think is who said, it's not what you can get, what is it? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
That's exactly right.
Something to that
John
effect.
F. Kennedy said
JFK.
that.
There you
Sure
go.
Sure did.
Speaking of the JFK stand. Now, I wanted to ask you a question about your hometown. Is there a town around here that's like reminisce? Is it like a Bowman? Is it a Elberton? Is it bigger, like Athens?
It's not nearly as big as Athens. It would. I don't know much about Bowman. I've been through there a couple of times.
Shout out Bowman.
Going home, I do go home that way. When I go to South Georgia, I go that way instead of going back through Atlanta. It's a lot shorter.
Yeah.
It's not as big as Hartwell or Elberton. Probably close to the size of Bowman. It's probably a 3,000 person city, but it's rural and it's country.
That's awesome,
it's
man.
Country down there. There used to be some manufacturing there, but that's gone away.
Was it textile or
Textile.
Okay.
I used to work there, as a matter of fact, in high school. They made men's and women's trench coats, long trench coats, where people wear very few. You see very few of them around.
Did you wear one?
I had one.
That's awesome.
I was given one by the manager of the plant, and I don't think I ever wore it. I think it was probably donated to Goodwill.
All I think of is
many years ago.
Pulp Fiction.
Right.
Like that's all.
Right.
Every
Right.
time someone says long trench coat, I
Right.
pop Pulp Fiction in my
Right.
head.
Right.
But that's pretty cool, man. What other jobs have you had?
I started out. I worked all through high school. I did work in different little small jobs in a small town. We had a lot of pecan trees on the 47 acres we had. Once we moved to this town, Unadilla, we had 47 acres right in the middle of town. Pecan trees. I could pick up all the pecans I wanted. It was a great way for a young boy to make money, easy money. Back then, I wish I had the pecans here. Now,
I was about to say it'd be some good
today's
money.
prices versus what I sold them for back in
What
the
did you
50s.
get for a bucket of pecans back then?
I think we were getting 37 cents a pound for the pecans, the good ones. 100 pounds was $30, but that was $30 in the 50s, late 50s, early 60s. That was a lot of money for a young kid.
That's awesome, man.
So I could go home and make $30 in the afternoon. And today, people don't want to go home and do any. They don't want to go home and do any work. But I always enjoyed having that money in my pocket. My daddy always encouraged me working, and whatever I picked up, I had.
Staying busy is a thing, man. Like
Right.
idle hands are the devil's playthings.
Right.
You gotta
Right.
keep going
Right.
and stay busy.
I worked for R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company a number of years. I left them and did the same job for 35 years for Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser in Atlanta, always in Atlanta. Did the same job 35 years for them that I did with R.J. Reynolds. I was calling on stores, basically calling on headquarters, but I did have to visit a lot of stores to see how we were doing in the market. So
Did you have to do a lot of boardroom meetings and pitches, or were you
I had a lot of pitches to people, Kroger headquarters, Walmart, anything that was an off-premise chain I was responsible for in Atlanta. I had great bosses with Winston Cigarettes. They were a great company. I got a lot of knowledge out of working for that company. I was trained well. We were thoroughly trained. I started in Tallahassee, Florida. Ended up in Albany, Georgia, and then back finally in Atlanta the last years I was with them. But I actually left them and did the same, was hired to do the same job with Budweiser in Atlanta. So worked out real good for me, and two great companies and two of the best bosses any person could possibly have. So that
I hear you, man. So you retired from
retired from Budweiser in Atlanta.
Okay.
Retired 8 years ago, and I did some dealer trading on cars, working for a lot of the car dealerships in Atlanta. I stayed down there while my wife was a caretaker up here in Hartwell with her mother, and finished working down there last September when my house in Atlanta sold. My neighbor across the street from me bought my house, and I sold my house there and did not do any more dealer trading on cars, but I really enjoyed. I worked with a bunch of great guys and gals dealer trading cars. We were trading cars for dealerships, Chevrolet, Ford, Lexus, all these dealerships that I worked for. We dealer traded cars. We would trade from one dealership to another, going all over the southeast, as far away as Indianapolis, Indiana. We made dealer trades, so It was an interesting job.
That's a lot of shuffling of some high-end vehicles. That's awesome, man.
High-end vehicles and Bentleys. We had Bentleys.
Did you have a favorite?
We had.
I don't mean to cut you off, but it just dawned on me.
The Bentleys cost as much as $360,000. They were favorites to drive, but you were nervous driving those things.
Yeah,
But,
I bet.
I just wondered why anybody wanted to spend $360,000 on a car.
Look,
I couldn't have been comfortable with it if I had bought it. Now, some of the people that we dealt with, these people, that $360,000 would be like a $40,000 car for anybody else, any normal person. But $360,000, but the service on those things were expensive. Buying them, first off, is expensive, but the service on them is,
yeah,
it never goes away. And if
I
you
learned
wanna-
that.
If you want to keep those cars up, you got to spend the money. Factory trained technicians keeping those cars up. It's expensive, but I enjoy that. I enjoyed the Lexus. I got to know the Lexus car real well. That's a great car. Toyotas were great cars. Nissans are great cars. I spent a lot of time driving Jeeps and all the Mopar products. We had Ford, we had Chevrolet, just about any car that you can imagine. We had dealerships. Not all of them in Atlanta, but we would be trading from, like I said, all over the Southeast. But that was a fun time. I enjoyed it. A good friend of mine got me into that. I retired December the 5th from Budweiser in 2018. I went to work December the 8th trading cars 3 days later.
So you didn't even give yourself a good 3-day weekend. You went right.
Stayed retired 3 days, and but I enjoyed it. My wife was up here with her mother, with her ailing mother, and lost my mother-in-law to dementia, and that was a very sad thing to watch her go away with that. But my wife sold her. She was in the 401k profit sharing business. She sold her own business in Atlanta to come up here and stay with her mother. I really admire her for that. That was 6-7 years of her life that she gave up just to come up here to take care of her mother. Her father had already passed away. He built the house on the lake that we live in now. He was comfortably in that house for 2 or 3 years. His neighbor found him in the woodworking shop. That's his hobby, woodworking. He built the house himself. And his neighbor found him in the woodworking shop dead from a massive heart attack, and that was sad. And then after that, my mother-in-law started going downhill, but my wife had the presence of mind to come up here and stay with her.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I'm sure there are onsets. My wife used to work at a dementia home where it was like a tiered thing, and she had to go through a lot of training to like give you the sensation or let you understand what it's like. And I had no idea. Like it's yes, you from a layman's, before I went through the same things she did to come to understand what it was like, I was like, oh, you lose yourself. You don't really understand, but it's so much more of a physical thing you go through too. Like your tunnel vision. Yeah, it's in my grandmothers both suffered from it. My
grandfather had it, and I saw him go down. He finally ended up in a hospital in Milledgeville, Georgia. These are not crazy people. It's just sick people, and but he was there and didn't know anything. Knew a little bit of the family, but not much. It was pretty sad. I mean, I was there when he died in probably '62. I was 16 years old. But we used to go to Milledgeville to see him at the hospital there, and that's where he passed away. But he was a farmer, and very poor farmer, but a hard-working farmer.
Salt of the earth type people.
Salt of the earth. He used to tell me, I think I pushed the mule more than the mule pulled the plow. So I can hear him saying that now. But a little skinny guy.
That's pretty cool.
But a hard worker. He worked sun up to sundown every day, and that was his way of doing business.
I have to back up really quickly. I said my grandmothers both have suffered from it. My grandmother would beat me over the head because she's still taking care of my kids somewhere right now. My great-grandmothers both suffered from it. Yeah. If she ever sees this, I wouldn't want her to hit me with a frying pan for saying, you think I got I ain't that old yet? Bah. But yeah, I've wondered, I guess is the way to put it, you spent so many years with Anheuser-Busch and trading cars and any of that such. Did you? I see your veterans hat. Did you do any military stints?
6 years in the reserves. I went into the reserves thinking I was going to help out in my daddy's business. And my father got out of the Chevrolet business, got into the Gulf Oil distributorship business. After his brother died, they were partners in business in 2 Chevrolet places in South Georgia. I thought I was going to help out in my father's business. Once I joined the reserves, stayed in the reserves 6 years, had some great guys I met in there. Did that for 6 years and don't regret it. I would have gone active Army, joined the Army. I would have had it not been the idea of having to help out in my father's business.
Yeah.
My father's business, he had a major fire in the business. They lost the entire business. Shortly after that, he had a major stroke, and he spent his last 7 years of his life in a nursing home. So that put an end to me working for my father's business. So
Yeah, I'm sure that was very difficult to go
very,
through.
very
Man.
tough on the family.
I can
promise
imagine.
you. It was tough.
Like the cornerstone.
Yep.
You know.
I just lost one of my best friends. He and I went in the service the same day. Basic training in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, January of '66. He's a professional golfer. He died January the 6th of this year. And I think about the number 6. 66 was military going in. January the 6th, he died this year. He's one of the best friends I ever had in the world. I introduced him to his wife. They were happily married.
Yeah.
And he passed away in January of 2023. And just one of the hardest things I've had to go through with watching him pass away. But he was a close friend of mine.
I'm sorry for your loss, man. That's very
Great guy and a great golfer. Always told me I should start playing golf back in '66. I didn't play that back then. He always said you should start playing golf, and he says, I said I could never beat you in golf, and he said I could never beat you playing pool either. So I said, well, we'd be even on that. But I enjoyed playing pool.
even trade.
Even trade.
So you pool sharked a little bit in your life?
I used to play good. I played real good. I've got a bad right shoulder. I can't get down on the table good. I can't get down on my pool stick, with my chin on the pool stick, which is what you're supposed to do when you're playing good pool. Get down there and look down the cue stick. I can't get this right arm straightened out good, so I don't. I left when I sold my house in Atlanta in September. It went with the house.
Oh.
My neighbor that bought my house, the guy across the street, he got a beautiful pool table that I bought in the '70s when I got transferred to Atlanta by R.J. Reynolds, and I kept it nice, and we'd had a lot of fun on that pool table. But I don't play. I've got a good pool stick, real good pool stick, and I've got a neighbor that just moved in on the lake, a couple of doors down from me. He wants me to come play some pool with him. But I used to play good. When I went into service, I played real good. And that was probably the best I ever played was in '66, along in those years. We had a lot of fun over the pool, a lot of parties, and
I bet.
a lot of fun with the pool table. The girls would be in there talking about food and clothes and stuff, and they're part of the house, and we'd be in the pool table room having fun, drinking beer, and just having a good time with the guys.
That's
and
what
we
it's
had
about,
some
man.
girls. We had some girls that played pool too. We had some good. I had a good friend of mine that was an excellent pool player. She was growing up. She was extremely good. Her uncle owned a pool hall in Cordele, Georgia, as a matter of fact, and we dated some, but she was a real good pool player. She didn't back off from anybody. I mean, she challenged anybody that came in the door. And sometimes, most of the time, she beat them.
Yeah, you got to be confident.
So
There's, you got to step in the room and be willing to go after it if you want to play.
It's good to have an uncle that had a pool hall.
Me, my brother, my dad, and my grandpa all have shot pool for most of my life because Pop's always had a table. These recent years, since his health has declined, we really hadn't shot a whole lot since. But we still have local pool halls that me and my brother will drop into and just shoot every once in a while.
I love it. I love the game. I like snooker was my favorite game. I played a lot of snooker.
All right, you'll have to explain to me. I actually have never heard of that.
This girl that I'm talking about in Cordell, Georgia, she called me one day in college when I was a freshman in college and said, my new boss with Friedman's Jewelry Store wants to play you in pool for any amount of money, any game. And I said, well, it sounds like he's pretty good. Well, he was the best I ever saw in my life. He was a professional golfer. He ran a Friedman's Jewelry Store, but he was the best player I ever saw in my life. The snooker, going back to that, it's a bigger table. The pockets are rounded. You have to be very precise getting the ball into the pocket.
Oh, they're like cornered?
They're rounded.
Yeah. When you say rounded,
they're not square. They're not.
Instead of having the typical like U shape,
right?
It has like
rounded. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be very. It's the balls. It's a different game completely, but I loved it. And this gentleman that was her boss, Mr. Dorton, he could run snooker tables. If people can run 9-ball tables, 8-ball tables, whatever, he ran snooker tables. First time I ever saw him, I asked an older man that racked balls in Cordell, Georgia for her uncle at the pool hall there. I asked him who's the guy wearing a navy blazer and a tie on playing pool. Very distinguished looking guy, very intelligent guy. I said, who is that guy? I'd never met him. She said, that you should know that's Martha's boss, her new boss. I said, oh my gosh, no wonder he wants to play me for any game, any amount of money.
Yeah.
But I did play some pool with him and enjoyed it. But
did you ever win?
He taught me a lot about the game.
Did you ever win?
Never beat him.
I was just curious. I wanted to know.
We played snooker, and in that game, his points, you accumulate points. In snooker is what you do. His accumulation of points was so far above mine, but I mean, it could. If we were playing 8-ball or 9-ball, somebody could scratch or something like that.
And that's it.
Make a foul, and I could beat him like that. But I could never beat this guy. He was that good.
Did you ever pick up golf at all?
Played golf a lot when I got into the cigarette business and the beer business, especially. A lot of what we did with Budweiser. We had a lot of golf tournaments, and that's what really turned me on into golf. I had to play we had a lot of tournaments.
Had to step your game up for corporates.
Had to do it, you know. And,
that's awesome.
It was a lot of fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I've had this right shoulder operated on 3 times, so I don't play anymore. I'm going to try to play some up here. We got great golf courses around Hartwell.
Some of the most beautiful.
I've got a chef that comes in here all the time. He's a head chef at Katichi Golf Course. He wants me to come down there, and I think he plays a little bit, but I'd like to get back into the game. I got a lot of customers that come in here to this garage sale that play golf and talk about getting together, but I've had a lot of trouble with my right shoulder from a serious operation I had, and but I'm not gonna push it right now. I've got enough on me right now.
No, I understand.
Take care of this and the yard and my wife and the kids and grandkids. So that's what it's all about right now.
Yeah, I understand that. Like, I try to find time. I play golf myself. I'm picking. Let me just say, I'm picking up on the game. I just started trying to take it seriously in the past 2 years because I played baseball most of my life. That's all. That was my sport.
Right.
And as a kid, I played everything. My mom and dad made sure that my brother and I played literally anything that you could think of that we had access to. The only thing I think we didn't make it to was hockey because we didn't have something to skate on.
Right.
And if there had been ice around here, by God, we'd have probably played it. Ping pong, billiards, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, you name it, Mom and Dad wanted us to get after it.
I love it. Love all those sports. I played sports, and water skiing was my serious hobby.
I was about to say.
All my life, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I had a water ski school in Perry, Georgia. My daddy's best friend had a private lake in Perry, Georgia, and he offered me the use of the lake and the pavilion for people to sit and watch a ski show. I taught skiing during the week.
That's so cool.
But I was a very serious water skier. I was into it big time.
Dual skis? dual skis, one ski?
Barefoot.
Oh,
tricks,
barefoot.
You know, all the stuff to do with competition. It was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I've stayed in good shape, good physical shape. It kept me in good shape. I still work out 7 days a week, and even at my age of 76, just. But the water skiing was. I had a close friend who died a couple of years ago. Everybody called him my water ski coach. He was a great skier too, but he was a better coach than he was skier. But we learned a lot from each other, and he was a very particular guy. But we researched water skiing, and we found out back when people didn't realize you could ski on your bare feet. I did that for several years at Callaway Gardens. I skied down there in the barefoot show quite a bit. High school, after high school, and actually when I moved back up to Atlanta, I did ski down there a few more times. But I was a fill-in guy on the weekends, and that was fun. But the skiing was.
I'd imagine.
The water skiing is something. Hope to get the grandkids interested in water skiing. Most of the time they want to be on tubes, being drugged behind the boat.
Yep.
That's the easy way to do it. My stepson said, "You make it look so easy." I said, "Well, let me tell you, Eric, I've practiced a lot in my life, and honestly, I said it didn't come easy. I'll tell you that. It takes a lot of practice, like anything else, whether it's baseball or billiards or whatever. You got to practice to be good.
And there's art in all of it.
Right.
There's technique and beauty and fluidity. Like there's so many things to each sport.
Beautiful sport. I tell you, the water skiing is something else. But you don't see it. I don't see people on the lake. I hardly ever see anybody water skiing.
It's not something that's been. I've got I've got a couple acquaintances that I just tertiarily know that are really good at wakeboarding. Mm-hmm. A couple of them older than me, a couple of them younger than me. I think there might be a few people my age, but I'm not sure. In my generation, I mean, not as good as the guys I'm talking about. They could competitively wakeboard, and they're both, I think, live or stay around Lake Hartwell.
Wakeboarding is something new to. I never did. The wakeboarding was something that was. At 16 years old, I met a guy at Callaway Gardens. When I was working down there, I had passes to get in. At the Masters, a 16-year-old guy came there from, I think, Wisconsin. His family had moved to Florida to give him a year-round opportunity to ski. Corey Picos was the guy's name. Corey's still a friend of mine. I've been to his school down there. Santa Rosa, Florida is where he lives now. He's got a couple of 3 private lakes, but he's won the Masters. He won the Masters in trick skiing at 16 years old, and has won it several times since then. He's still skiing, but his son now has competed in the Masters. I don't know if he's won it yet. I'm not going anymore. I'm usually busy up here on Memorial Day when they have the Masters.
So it's going on this weekend.
This weekend. Right? But they end up. It's a great. Something great to see, and to see Corey trick is something to behold. I'm telling you, he was a 16-year-old kid, and he was one of the fastest trick skiers I've ever seen. The number of tricks you do, you accumulate points trick skiing.
So you just sling
40-second trick run, 20 seconds one way, 20 seconds the other way. But he was the fastest I've ever seen at doing the most tricks, and difficult tricks, very difficult tricks. A great skier and a great person, but he has a ski school there now. His wife's involved in the school, his daughter and his sons, but he's still there. Every time I go to Florida, I go by and see him, and I've been to his school practicing with him, so that's always fun to see him. You feel inferior when you're there with him, but still, he's trying to make you better.
Exactly. I feel that way when I play golf around any of my uncles. Any of my uncles, because all of them are very top tier golfers, scratch golfers on any given day.
I just talked to a friend of mine this week. He's one of the best professional golfers I think I've ever met in my life. We did the Lady Michelob golf tournament in Atlanta in '81, and I was responsible for going over and meeting with the people, getting everything set up, all the hospitality and all this stuff. It was near my house in Roswell, Georgia. Butch Hansen's the guy's name. He's suffering now with dementia, but I talked to him in Iowa this week one day. It was a pleasure to talk to him. I drilled him trying to pull some stuff out of his head, and he remembered most everything that he and I ever did or talked about, and he remembered the golf tournaments we did for Anheuser-Busch, the Lady Michelob golf tournament, professional golf tournament for the ladies, and but Butch is he's he's actually, they're trying to bring he's through in a memory clinic of some type, but he does have the first stages of dementia, and it's really sad to hear him. But he tries so hard to bring all that stuff back
Yeah.
from the past, and he's trying hard. But it's a good thing to do with those people is to drill them a little bit, drill them on what happened in the past.
Yeah.
Make them remember this stuff.
And you can do it in casual conversation.
Right.
That doesn't make it difficult
Right.
or no. And it's good mental exercise. It's
One of the
working
greatest-
the fabrics of the brain.
One of the greatest guys I ever met in my life. He's got very successful children, one in the military and one I think that's still in the golfing business. But I really miss seeing him, and he and I stayed close since 1980. 40-something years we've communicated and seen each other as much as we could. And we're different avenues in our lives. Me staying busy with Budweiser when I first met him is how I met him, and staying busy. It's a tough thing you run out of time to see your friends, but it's so good. But when I called him, I felt so good talking to him this week.
It's good for the soul, man.
It is.
And I
It
was gonna
is.
say it's probably even like not to put weight on you, but it's probably one of the better therapies for him in his entire life because you've been there through a lot of it, and
Right.
that emotion elicits more
Right.
memory response, and he can
Exactly.
recall more easily if he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember being there with you. We
That's
were doing this
exactly-
thing."
Exactly right.
That's
Exactly
cool, man.
right.
Well, good on you for staying in touch with your friends throughout your life, because I feel like that's another thing that few people do nowadays is longevity. Like
It's important. It's important.
It's easy to find new friends in this era that we have, and
Right.
social, like even what I do, like social media and all the things that exist. It's clickbait. It's how quickly can you get that dopamine,
Right.
and then after the use is done, like if I don't get that feeling, it's
Right.
no longer useful. I don't need to talk to you. I don't have a reason to be around you. Whatever.
My father was always a person to go to nursing homes and see people, hospitals and stuff. And after you do all that, you have church on Sunday, and then you go fishing. That was he and my mother. They loved to fish, and but he always encouraged me to go back and visit people that are sick. Don't shy away from going there. Go out of your way to go see these people. Stay in touch with people. Send cards, phone calls, whatever it takes to stay in touch with people.
Well, connection's really at the end of the day all we have.
Right.
Like
exactly.
in our genuine bottom dollar, like when you die, when I die, we leave all this crap behind. But
Right.
the connections that you had is the only
Right.
real thing that you leave.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So it's
Knowing you did the right thing. That's so important.
hey, and like I said, it's commendable that you've stayed true to that. And
Right.
even now, just the other day, I was talking to a friend
Right.
of yours you
Right.
held on to for so many years.
Right.
I don't want to stop us short, but can I get some more coffee?
You sure can.
I
You sure
appreciate you,
can.
my friend.
Sure can.
Do you want some?
I've got plenty.
Okay.
I'm
I
still
just wanted
good.
to check.
Yeah. Yes, good coffee.
It is.
I always have it on right here.
Social therapy. Y'all need to come get some coffee up at Chuck's garage.
I have people that come in, I think, mostly just to see what's here and drink coffee, you know? Especially the drinking coffee.
Bad way to be, man.
Well, I like my coffee early in the morning. That's one of the first things I do is hit the button when I walk in the door.
Would you mind if I turn that down just a tad? I just realized.
Not a bit. You can't hear it back here, but go ahead.
Can't? Okay.
You cannot hear it at all back
Okay.
here. That I've got all that stuff between here and there. You don't hear
I
it.
didn't even realize it until I walked over there.
You don't hear
I was like,
hear it
okay.
at all back here. You
Perfect.
sure don't. You won't.
Oh, sorry to break the stride there.
That's
But
okay.
the coffee's so good, I had to just go
Well,
get
I
another
appreciate
cup.
that. I appreciate it.
But yeah,
Always get one for the road too when you leave today.
so sports has been a big part of your life for
I
most of your life.
like the billiards all my life growing up. I like that. The water skiing was very important to me, close friend of mine that died a couple of years ago. My coach, I called him. Losing him when I left home, when I left and graduated high school after college and everything else, military, he got out. He lost interest in water skiing because I wasn't there with him. That's what he told me one day. He said, you were my right hand man, and we went every as often as we could and practiced and skied, and we had a lot of fun. But I miss that. But the skiing was important to me until I had these 3 shoulder operations, and it's been one thing after another with that. But I hope to get back into I doubt I'll ever water ski again, but I do want to get back into playing golf.
Well, when you start playing, you let me know.
Right.
I am going to be there.
Okay.
I go out for a good time. Like I said, I'm trying to be better, so I am a competitive person, but I am not the type that's going to harp and moan and get upset with people about etiquette or anything like
Right.
that. Like if you're not enjoying yourself while you're out there, I don't understand why you would be there.
Right.
Like
Why
I don't
would
go
you
for
Why
self-torture.
spend the money if you don't enjoy it? It's
Exactly.
like anything else. I don't care if it's a concert or if it's whatever it may be. Day on the lake. If you're not there for a reason, if you don't enjoy it, you shouldn't be there.
Exactly.
I firmly believe that.
Golf thing. Where do you want to play first?
I don't know. I think I've played Hartwell Country Club years and years ago. There was a group of men on the lake that all bought over there at the same time. It was all family related at one time. That's how it all started. I used to play a lot with them over there in Hartwell. There were several par 3s around Hartwell at one time, with 2 or 3, I can recall.
I did not know that.
I think they're all closed now, but we used to go. They were just cow pastures, is what they were. But it was fun, and we really enjoyed it. I had a guy that died a few years ago. He would be at least 90 now, and I could never beat him on a par 3. I was decent with my short game, but this man, I'm telling you what, day in and day out, 9 holes. A lot of times we play it a second time.
He was
I
throwing
could never
darts.
beat him. His son still lives on the lake, a few doors down from us, and but Fred was a good guy, and he was tough. He was tough for his age. I'm telling you what, he loved his golf. His son's a great golfer. Fred still lives over there, and he's a very good golfer. I don't know if Fred's playing anymore or not. We haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be eating with him tomorrow on the lake, as a matter of fact. I'll be at his house tomorrow. I need to ask him about that and see what he says. But his dad left to play. But we had a lot of men over there that all played, and we just had fun out there. But I'd like to see Katichi. I've never played it, but this friend of mine that's a chef there has talked about playing, and I'd like this Richard Russell State Park.
That's
I understand
me.
that's a great place.
That's me
to
over
play.
there.
That's a great place to play, I understand. A lot of good courses in Atlanta. I mean, I've played just about every golf course in Atlanta, Georgia, in business. Chateau Elan, we played all 3 courses.
I have
there.
never even looked at that course.
Chateau Elan's pretty. It's
I imagine.
3 difficult courses, but a lot of fun. Great people down there. I know the guy that's the director of golf there. He's a good friend of mine. I met him there when we were doing tournaments, and he's become a good friend of mine. And, but I need to get back down there sometime and play.
Well, you seem to have a strong sense of community. Like, you have a lot of people that you immediately can just recall, or and
I had to
it always
business.
it stays relevant.
In business, and I love people. I love talking to people. I love knowing. I ask everybody that walks in this door, where you from, what do you do for a living, and all this stuff. Trying to communicate with people, networking here, just being in Hartwell, living here permanently. Networking is important. If you need a plumber, if you need a yard man or something like that, I've got business cards. I got over 100 on the wall over there, and I try to give people leads on people that do good work, painters or whatever it may be. And I ask people that come in the door all the time, not asking personal questions, just what do you do for a living,
Yeah.
and so forth. And it's interesting, it really is.
There's a lot of eclectic people here in Northeast Georgia, for
Right.
sure. Speaking of, how did this come to be, and just like overnight you just was like, you know what? I got a lot of stuff in my garage. I'm finna,
We had
finna clear out.
We were looking for a place. My wife, we were looking for a place to bring stuff out of Roswell to Hartwell. I saw a huge barn down the road here. On the internet, it looked about as big as Turner Field in Atlanta, or Mercedes-Benz Stadium, or whatever. But
Yep.
It wasn't what I needed when I got there. I came down the road about a mile to this corner right here, and saw a for sale sign. Made a phone call sitting out here in the parking lot. The guy walked next door, showed me the 3 buildings. An hour later, we signed a contract, and I went back and got him a deposit check. I bought them just to move stuff in from Atlanta and start unloading it at my own pace. As it worked out, he had left so much stuff in these buildings. I said, I've got to sell this stuff first to have room for my stuff. Well, I started bringing my stuff up, and it sort of turned into this. I like the flea market thing. Like I said, my brother has one very similar stuff. Excuse me, in Middle Georgia, where I'm from, and it just turned into what it is. I buy a lot of stuff from people, estates, whatever it is, and I had a lot of stuff in my basement in Atlanta, and it's turned into what it is. And right now, I'm totally out of room.
It is a cool place. Like, there's so much cool stuff in here.
It's an interesting place. I mean, you've got antiques, you've got car stuff, you've got furniture, you've got tons of tools in here. You've got over 100 pictures for sale in this building alone. This one, the other building next door, over 100 pictures. Some good stuff. Not junk. I mean, good stuff. But Bunny left. Bunny Fleming. Bunny Tuna, they called him nickname. Bunny left so much stuff in here, I could not believe it. I mean, it's drawn a lot of people in for some of the stuff that I had that he left in here that come back and buy today and come back next week and buy more of the same thing when they see what it is. But he left stuff. He didn't want it. He didn't want the stuff to take with him. He just moved to Florida recently after he sold the house next door.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Some other buildings. He sold completely out in this triangle here. About 3 or 4 acres here. I've got an acre, and the other 2 or 3 acres are down the way there. But he left stuff, good stuff. I mean, sellable stuff and stuff I've made good money on, and just one of those things. You know,
Congratulations to Bunny and making it to that point and
Yep.
selling and going to where he wanted to go.
Successful business.
That's awesome.
They built utility trailers here. I understand. They built custom vans back in the day. But he's out of business right now, and happily retired, living in Florida.
How about that?
So, but
Good
this
on
is
him.
what happened. The buildings have been fun. They really have.
Well, it is one of the cooler buildings. Like, the business as a whole, like you said, there's so many things here. Oh,
It's
also Michael
unbelievable.
Vick's
It's
conference
amazing
table.
what you can find in here. But you see a lot of American flags. One behind me, one over here. This one behind me was a Christmas gift from my wife. She knows I'm a loyal veteran and love the veterans and everybody that's ever sacrificed for this country, especially this weekend we're in now.
Yeah.
Flag over there was a Christmas present, the big one on the wall. I had one painted. I've got one out on the front of the building that I had painted by a lady. I put it up the first week I was here. But it's just an interesting thing. I've got a tuna fish over there, that big tuna hanging over there. Bunny fished for tuna. That's where his nickname,
Bunny Tuna,
came from, because he became a tuna fisherman once he closed all this business down. He gave me that
that's
fish,
awesome.
and everybody in the world that comes in tries to buy the fish. But I said, no, it was a gift from Bunny, and
It's not going
I
anywhere.
wouldn't sell it for the world. You know,
That's
so
cool.
he wants to offer me $1 million for it. I'll help him take it down, but I'm not pushed to sell it by any means. Don't want to sell it, but just one thing after another in here, though. Whatever you see, if you want oil lamps, whatever you want.
We can prepare you for
Harley
anything around
Davidson
here.
parts.
It got me ready for a podcast.
Canning jars, whatever it is. Furniture, like the stuff you bought. I mean, that was great that you came in and spotted the stuff you wanted.
I mean, it wasn't hard, man. Like you've got all the necessary materials. All you
Right,
got to do is just walk around and look.
right,
Like it's
yeah.
it's really a cool place.
Weed eaters, lawnmowers. I've got it all in here. I mean, I really increase the inventory every week, and we've got 2 or 3 estates that we have not even brought in yet, but paid for because we hadn't got room to put them. So
Y'all come get some of this stuff out of here so we can see what the new material are.
we sure are.
That's
sure
awesome.
Are. We sure are.
You said you were a car guy and sold and traded cars and stuff like that. I know I asked you if you had a favorite car, and we talked about how expensive Bentleys were. But do you have a favorite car? Like, if I could get a car in my driveway and just have it, what would it be?
I specialize in something really different than what most people truly look at and thrive to have. Would be a 2-door sedan, 2-door post cars, 2-door post cheap body cars with little hubcaps with big motors. That's my
Oh yeah.
thing. That's my thing. Uh, Growing up in the car business, I've started messing with cars when I was very early and very young, early in my life, and I've ended up having many, I mean, into the hundreds of muscle cars in my life, and I'm going to get back into that. I'm going to get back into that, I hope, this coming year. Um, Now that we got the house situated over there, the yard situated over there with the house that we got from my in-laws, I hope to be able to get back into the car hobby. That is my thing. I love car shows. I've been to hundreds of them, and I want to start doing that again. I've had some friends. One passed away. One is not able to go to shows because of his hips and his knees. But I'm trying to meet some people around here. There's a lot of good car guys and gals around Hartwell. I plan to get into some car shows with. They've got one uptown today in Hartwell, as a matter of fact, 10
I
to
was
2.
about to say usually around this time
I
they have
saw a
them.
lot of them this morning coming in this morning early. I saw a lot of them, a lot of nice trucks on 77 going to the car show. Even though it starts at 10, a lot of them were heading down to get an early place to get in the shade or get out of the wind or whatever, wherever they could get today. But the car hobby is something I thoroughly enjoy. I've met so many great guys in that line of business, and I've made money on cars. I've had good success with selling cars, but just the friendship I've acquired from being in that hobby for so many years has just been
It comes back to the relationships
it's
you build.
amazing. It's all relationship related, and but we have fun. I'll be going to one the weekend before Thanksgiving. That'll be the next one I go to.
That's awesome,
Big
man.
big show. If anybody has an opportunity to go to a car show, they have not been to Moultrie, Georgia, South Georgia, near where I'm from. That's one of the best car shows in the country.
What was the name of it again?
Moultrie, Georgia.
Moultrie, Georgia.
Georgia is
All
where
right.
it is. Anybody has any questions, they can contact me, and you can put my information on the podcast, whatever. But
Yeah, absolutely.
anybody has any opportunity to go to a car show that's fun and reasonably priced, I would suggest it. And we have a lot of fun down there. The weather's always good in November, so we don't have any problem.
Well, Chuck, I want to make sure that we give you the leeway to get after the business that you need to get after today. But before we go, I do want to
Hmm.
ask you something. In all your
Hmm.
travels, and I usually do this with every guest that I can remember to do so with, is there anything that you've experienced or gone through in life and gotten a lesson out of, or could impart to someone some bit of just, I don't know, what you've learned or what you've done that would help somebody along the way in their travels?
I think the social media right now I think it's taken away a lot from kids.
Mm-hmm.
I thoroughly enjoyed growing up in a country town. It was a country atmosphere, not farming, but country atmosphere, small town. Everybody knew everybody. We were having close friends is so important. Uh, but the main thing, other beyond having multiple friends, friendships, families, everything, I think people need to establish a work ethic like I did all my life. Um, I think that work ethic is so important. If you want to change jobs 2 or 3 times in your career, that's fine too. I did some of that, but you try to better yourself. Uh, But I would just tell people work ethic is the most important thing in the world, and friendship, continuing these friendships from back then to now. Just like me calling Butch this week and staying in touch with him. I've known him since 1980 through business with Budweiser.
And stick with him through the good and the bad, the hard
right.
times.
I mean, I'm seeing him now, finding out now from his wife that he's getting this dementia. It's driving me nuts just thinking about it. I mean, just to see the guy, the great golfer he was, and the golf professional he was, that really it, it it really disturbs me seeing him like that. But
it gives you perspective.
It
puts you.
But I'm gonna call him every week, and I'm gonna stay in touch with him, and I'm gonna probe his brain every week, trying to keep him active, get his mind active, and get him to do the right stuff to last as long as he possibly can. But the friendship stuff is, and the work ethic, I think, is two of the most important things in the world to me. And family, take care of your family, be a good family person, be good to your wife, be good to your husband, whatever the situation is. And I feel like that's the most important thing in the world to me is the friendship. But the work ethic is, I think a lot of that has gone away. And people that are saying I can't find a job, they're not trying hard enough. They need to find a job.
There's work to be done. I can't say that.
There's plenty of work to be done. I went into Walmart one night late. They opened to 10, I think, at night. I went in there one night earlier than before they were closing, and the person at the door said, "Shop fast because we're having to close early because we're short on help at a Walmart." You know. But anyway, bottom line,
there's work to be done.
There's work to be done, and if you want to work, but when you work for somebody, and another thing, if you work for somebody, give it everything you've got, give it your best, day in and day out. My boss told me one time that 35 years with Budweiser, Mr. Hardy, my boss, Charles Hardy, told me one time. He says, "Chuck, if you get to work on time, you're late. If you're on time, you're late." And I remembered that. And driving company cars for all those years with those two companies, R.J. Reynolds and Budweiser, I've never had an accident that I was charged for. I was proud of that driving record. They gave us driving records cards every year, and I got a safe driving award from Budweiser when I retired. And somebody asked me, "How did you do that?" I said, "Well, I would tell anybody that's starting to drive, take a second look. Just be observant, take a second look. I think that's the most important thing of safety on the road. Take a second look when you start to pull out, when you start to change lanes. Take a second look. Not that that's what we're here for. But
that's a good life application.
It is a good
Before you take that
application.
step, take a second look. That's pretty good.
It absolutely is.
I like that.
Take a second look. I've encouraged a lot. I've got a granddaughter that'll be driving in another year. For learner's permit, I'm going to suggest that to her. I'll see her this weekend, as a matter of fact. See her this afternoon. I'm going to encourage to her.
Well, she's got somebody to take good advice from for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. But I've tried to be a role model for anybody that I know, whether it's somebody young, somebody starting to water ski, somebody starting to mess with cars. Try to tell people to be the best they can possibly do at whatever they do. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Just be the best at whatever you do. No matter if you're a farmer or if you're a CEO of a big company, do the best you can.
That's awesome.
And really take care of the people that work for you, you know, and keep them motivated. I think it's very important. I sure do.
Teamwork, man.
Teamwork. That's what it's all about.
Chuck Connor, hey, it's an absolute pleasure. I wish you nothing but success, sir.
I appreciate that.
Tell them where you can be found again.
I'm located in a little community called Nuberg. I don't know where that came from, but it's a community name out here. I'm located about 7 miles out of Hartwell on Highway 77. It's about 10 or 12 miles the other direction on 77 to Elberton, Georgia. Cokesbury Highway comes in front of two of my three buildings. It's easy to find. I am in Hart County out here. I live in Hart County in Hartwell, of course, on the lake. But I'm easy to find. And phone number.
Yours?
Phone number. You want to give that?
Yeah, if you're willing.
Phone number.
Yeah.
If somebody needs to contact me about something I have for sale out here, my phone number is still an Atlanta number. Is 678-300-3225. 834-3461. I can be reached anytime. That's my cell number. Somebody interested in cars, car shows, feel free to call me. Or if you see there's something you're wondering about in my buildings, I've got a lot of stuff, and I encourage everybody that can to come out and see it, because we try to make it bigger and better every week.
And you absolutely do. I can attest.
It's different. People say, "What do you have in here?" I said, "Well, just about everything you can imagine." You know?
Take a trip around the block. Tell me what you see.
It's worth coming in for.
That's awesome. Chuck,
I appreciate you very much.
Thank
Wish
you,
you
sir.
a lot of success in life and with your podcast business.
I genuinely appreciate that, good sir. I am trying my best to just make my little community a better place.
Right,
That's the
right.
whole point, and
It's
kit and
very
caboodle.
important. It's important. Every community. Frank just moved here from Florida. He's my new neighbor. He's a great guy, and we're having fun together. What we know of each other so far, and he's looking forward to getting involved in the community. He's retired from Florida and living up here now. I guess a couple of months, and
I'm looking forward to chatting with him too. Who
Yeah.
knows? You know, you never know.
you can't ever tell.
You
He's a
never
good
know.
guy. He taught welding for 30-something years in a vocational school in Florida. So he started out as a welder in shipyards up north. So
I might just come up here and set my microphone down one day, and everybody
Seriously,
that comes in the door,
seriously,
I
yeah.
can chat with.
a lot of good people. A lot of good people.
Well, I think we're gonna call it though.
I appreciate that very much.
No, absolutely, man. I would do like 100 times over. I'm sure there's a million more stories we could sit down and
Right.
have.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a little quick, and you're sitting here waiting for customers to come in, but it's fine. I mean, it's a good thing. You do a good job with this, and I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you,
More
man.
than you know.
Well, guys, that was social
Appreciate-
therapy.
Sure enjoyed meeting your mother and your
Oh,
brother.
yeah, and they say hello, by the way.
I appreciate that.
Y'all have a wonderful day, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, bud. That was fun. Woo! That shit was hot. Appreciate it, man. I like playing music. It's one of my favorite things to do.